All right, we're live. Oh, there's the microphone. Welcome, everyone, to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, the Bedluck Gamer, with my co-host, Glue Boy.
Hello, hello, I'm back.
And it's been a little bit, actually. First of all, if this is your first time checking out the streams, just know we get to the main topic of the stream somewhere around the 25-minute mark. So if you're just looking for answers about what we're chatting about today, check there first. But as we always kind of start off with some talking about ourselves and the like. We didn't have stream actually last week, and that was because it was a very rough week.
Yeah, like your pipes froze, right?
Yeah, so our pipes froze. Those who have been keeping up on the channel might already know, but our pipes froze. We were out without water for 3 days.
Oof, that sucks.
Fortunately, my family owns another property here in where we live. So we had a place to go get water, use the bathroom. But, you know, it's very soul crushing to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I gotta pee. Oh, I gotta drive 5 minutes to go use the bathroom. Like, it's...
Yeah, like you gotta go drive to a separate location. Yeah, that's your bathroom house. That's like some rich person shit.
right. Only this was not that case. This is
No.
we have no other choice. And it's on top of that, so it, like, fortunately we had no pipe bursts, which was
That's good.
very lucky. So we didn't have any major water damage, anything like that. That's good. Like, immediately we had like a day break between pipes freezing, and then it snowed a lot. We got like a foot of
Yep.
snow.
We had that over where I am too.
Yeah,
It's
it
been
was
a lot.
the difference is they're not ready for it here.
Fair.
We
They
couldn't
they
go
right on
anywhere,
it.
so good thing our pipes were no longer frozen, because otherwise we would have been mega screwed.
True.
Though, to be fair, I do know where you live. At least at the apartment complex I lived, they didn't plow the parking lot like at all, and it was just very common to see someone just park their car up on like a foot of compacted ice.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the city doesn't like plow our streets. I think it's just some guy or two with like a truck and then their own little plow. And like because I think it's some guy who lives on our street that does ours, which is kind of nice, but every once in a while we have to play it smart or like a parking space is going to get covered over.
Yeah,
It
so
was rough. It was pretty insane. The good few days heading to work around like 8:30 when it was like -2. That was fun.
yeah, I mean, I feel worse for you guys because the coldest we got was like 7 degrees.
Yeah,
So,
we had
like,
-2. It was painful to be outside.
the benefits of living in a more temperate region, I guess.
Yeah,
But
at least we
uh,
have heating, so like I was chilled when we were inside. It was just whenever the brief bit we had to go outside, which was primarily for work. Any other time I was inside, not doing anything because I was recovering. I talked about it last table talk we did. I've been going through some headache troubles. Um, to all y'all in chat, do not, for any circumstances, overtake ibuprofen or any over-the-counter painkiller or like anti-inflammatory stuff, because your body can be like, ah, I see, the pain is normal, so I'm just gonna bring it back all the time. So I finally have like been treating a chronic headache issue I've gotten, but I've had 2 weeks of pretty shit health. But actually, I'm very good now. I'm feeling pretty good, pretty banging. Uh, Yesterday was the first day in like I honestly want to say like a month I haven't had a headache, and it was pretty nice actually. And then today has been even better because I felt really good, and I've been playing Yakuza 8. So, what better could I be doing with my time?
Oh man, right now is a really it's like the gaming feast of last year has not stopped. We've been
Yes.
playing tons of Palworld. I'm upset. We got a server and like barely anyone has touched it.
I would have been. It's just the problem is every time I join, I get like really shit frame rate, and then other stuff kept going on, or I'd play for like 30 minutes, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm really lightheaded. I need to go lay down. It was
Yeah,
health for a good bit. That was the reason that I was stopping playing it. And then the moment I was like, all right, I'm good to start playing it. Uh-oh. Yakuza.
yeah. I
Which is
mean,
today.
it's and to be fair, it's still in early access. There's a lot of things that need
Yeah.
to get fixed. Uh,
No cross compatibility. Yeah.
yeah. I
But
mean, that
it
wasn't
is
really a big deal
cool.
for us because we just
Yeah.
have friends we play with. But yeah, it's
Yeah, no one's on Steam for all of us at least.
honestly, the thing that gets me the most is the whole point is you're supposed to leave your pals there to automate and do the base or whatever.
Oh my
In
god.
the game currently, to save information, obviously, it kind of unloads all your pals, but it considers them just
Yes.
sitting there and not doing anything. So they just sit and
Yeah.
starve and they get super sick. So when you come back on after, going to bed, all your pals are like messed up.
Yeah, I had that where all my pals were depressed, and I spent all day getting depression, like antidepressant stuff, and that's a lot. So last time I played, I put them all in. I put them all in
In the box,
my
yeah.
pal box. But like, I have been playing a bit. I got firearms. Like, I finally got guns. That's as far as I've gotten. And I'm like pretty close to getting like basically to the next gym. It is just like, uh, yeah, I would have played more if I could have been hopping in the calls with y'all, but the one
Yeah.
time I tried with you is like not great.
It's all good. I mean, in the end, like it's a game. I think it's really fun,
Oh, super
and
fun.
I think it has a lot of potential. And that's kind of like it's kind of like the Valheim problem, right? Where it's like you play a shit ton of Valheim, and then you come back and like there's a update or whatever, and then you play it for a bit more, and you're like, I don't know, it feels a lot the same to me because all the new stuff is later, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't necessarily want. I mean, I've played nearly 5 hours or 50 hours at this point, so
Hmm.
it's like I'm getting kind of close to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm kind of good for the time being. I'll probably end up playing it a little bit more, but I kind of want to leave a little bit more for when more stuff comes out, especially when
I
they
feel
start
that.
adding more pals and all that, which will be
Yeah,
fun.
when they start adding more pals, and especially when they start getting the servers a bit more stable, because that part is also making it really annoying. Because it's really, really hard to have fun with this game that I'm like genuinely having fun with. And every time I'm trying to do like I find a cool pal like, and I'm fighting it, and then I dodge and I
You
rubber
get hit
band
anyway.
into its
Yeah,
attack. Yeah,
I hate that.
it is very frustrating to have that consistently happen to where like dodging doesn't matter because the latency. So like when I can't do anything about that because the game keeps selling like absolute just like insane records. So can't really
Yeah,
do much.
yeah.
Hopefully they put all that money into just securing as much as they can.
Uh, yeah. So and to be fair, like I'm getting ready to play Grand Blue Fantasy Relink when it comes out next week, which is essentially going to be fantasy Monster Hunter. I mean, like more fantasy,
Mm.
I guess, than Monster Hunter. Uh, so I'm super hyped about that. It's gonna be really,
Yeah.
really fun.
I'm like I need to play more of it. I didn't get to play. I just got to chapter 2 of Yakuza 8. To be fair, like I had to like do up some other stuff, like write a script, and get some other little minor errands done. But and also because it's a Yakuza game, it takes like 8 hours for the game to start. But man, already the game is like every single minor issue I had with Yakuza 7 has been like addressed, where it's just everything I'm like, oh, I see what they're going for, but I feel like they could do a little better here. Certain just minor fixes with the battle system, like just move. You were able to move around a little bit when you're fighting, which is a problem because positioning is really important. But Yakuza 7 basically had an RNG for where your character was standing for a positional based like JRPG system.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really important when you have like knockback and AoE and like you can throw enemies into each other. And then they made dungeon designs like a lot cooler. And also, I gotta say, it is absolutely wild to me that the inciting incident for the story is the main character, Ishban Kazuga, getting canceled on Twitch by a VTuber. It is fucking goofy to me. But also, like, when it happens, like any other property, any other game or like movie or stuff, I see it often, you know, like movies and all this that do like Twitch streamer characters, and I'm like, this feels like really just like no a better word for it. I don't like it, but there's no better word. It feels kind of cringe, as like it doesn't feel like this is real. Like it doesn't feel. This feels like it's an old man's understanding of what Twitch and YouTube culture is.
Yeah.
When streaming in YouTube came up in Yakuza, I was like, I feel like this is written by people who actually watch VTubers. Like this feels like this is legit, or at least like this is some people who understand this internet culture and understand like, oh yeah, this is kind of what would happen.
Yeah, well,
like,
it's interesting because a lot of people who've grown up in the internet age are now starting to move into the industries and are getting to higher level positions. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of that kind of perspective, I feel like, coming.
I hope, because it gets really annoying with, like, because I throughout all, like, screenwriting stuff, I kept seeing it, even in, like, film stuff, like, student films, current, like, indie films, I would see it, like, very internet-based movies, and, even, like, stuff during COVID where I'd watch it and I'd be like, this is, I don't know, just there's an energy to it where I'm like, this feels really lame and just not very good. And then when I'm seeing Yakuza cover this stuff, it's just, it has this energy to it where I feel like it's a lot more like, it has a lot of soul in it that I respect. And because also Yakuza has a very strong plot point about like about COVID and like because apparently also it uses a lot of research and a lot of other things. It talks about how Japan was dealing with quarantine and all that. And then adds in the weird Yakuza bullshit, but you know. Didn't Iron Mouse get a cameo as a card or something in the feudal Japan Yakuza game? I think so. I know in this game there's some YouTuber cameos.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not very into the Yakuza series. I tried.
I
wasn't able to get into it.
It is one of my favorite series of all time. It is a beautiful game series. I absolutely adore like intense political melodrama mixed with absolutely weird, goofy bullshit. It's so human. That's what I love about the Yakuza games.
It's very fun. That's definitely something that we'll talk about. It's just fun because like there's been a lot of controversy with Palworld, and I don't necessarily really want to get into it because I'm so exhausted of seeing everything, and it's so dumb. And all the people who are super upset because the game has slavery. It's a video game. It's like people will just do the stupidest things in games because they can and they find it funny. I mean, that's what the whole plot around the Alien Invader game.
Destroy All Humans.
Destroy All Humans. Like,
yeah.
You just grab someone and just telekinetically smack them up against walls. Civilians.
Yeah, it's the point funny. Of it, yeah.
And it's like a Palworld. It's like, yeah, we're not advocating for slavery. It's funny because it's a game. And it's, everyone's always talked about the idea of what if you catch someone in a Pokeball? Do they become your Pokemon? Well, in Palworld, they do, and it's hilarious.
It's really funny. Like, also, Dead Phoenix. This is like legitimately, if you want like the to get into the Yakuza games, I do honestly recommend playing all of them. They're all very good, and they've been remastered in a way that are all very playable on PC. You just play like Kiwami 1 and 2, go back to 0, and then 3 onward, and you're good. However, if you got like a time crunch, just play like 0, Kiwami, 1 and 2, and then go play 7 and 8. You're good. And then if you got time in between 7 and 8, go play The Man Who Erased His Name. Like then you're good. Um, yeah, the Power World discourse is really annoying only because like I understand the points of people being like it's ripping off Pokemon designs. I don't think it's 100% plagiarized. Like they're straight up tracing designs. I think that stuff's a little fake. I think that it's I think the problem is it's a lot of it is people straight up just lying and providing
Yeah.
zero evidence. That is the part that annoys me. Of like, you can have an issue where you're like, Palworld is derivative of Pokemon. Here are a bunch of pals. I think they should have designed really unique pals. And then there's a really good thread where they went pal by pal and like showed really clearly, like, okay, this one just design influence. There's only so far you can take. Like, I made a cat that is a
Yeah.
Pokemon, or they're like, this is literally the same, and they're very fair about it. And there's like some where it's like, yeah, this is 100% one for one, and there are others where it's like, nah, there's only so far. I think it's the most fair point you can take it. That is the one where I'm like, yeah, fair enough. The whole bit of like being upset over like cartoony little pals being mistreated, I don't know. It's fake. It's a video game.
Well,
The whole bit of just lying about it having AI because 2 years ago the CEO talked about that he thinks AI is like the future. There's no evidence there. You're just lying.
well, yeah. So that is true. Actually, Japan does not care about parody. There's no such thing as fair use in Japan,
No.
actually. But
Especially if you're another Japanese company, because it's kind of just fair game. They only
yeah.
really care about copyright infringement if you're not a Japanese company.
But the thing is like the only thing that Palworld is possibly in danger of is the squints test, where if you compare two things side by side, can you tell if they're from different games or
Yeah, and
not?
there are a couple. There's like the wolf like Lycanroc looking one where I'm like, that one's a little too similar. Which, to be fair, actually, with how much money they got, I actually think it'd be a pretty general positive thing. They have the money, they have the resources. I think it'd be kind of cool if they went back and maybe even redesigned a couple of them to be a little more unique. As like, hey, you know what? We heard the complaints. We understand. A lot of these are a little too derivative in like how you're saying. We went back and we redesigned some of them.
I personally don't think they need to.
I don't think they need to. I think it'd be great publicity, great marketing.
I mean, I guess sure. I mean, they're making enough money, so I guess that's fair point to make.
They sold 7 million copies, so
They're
like,
selling more. It's still not.
yeah,
They're still not done.
they're not done.
Uh,
Like, if they just like made if they like made their budget, I wouldn't be saying this. They made that and significantly more and are breaking records every like, I don't what, 12 hours at this point. I think at this point they could just have a team that's just like, the fuck it, we ball, and just kind of add whatever they want. And who knows, maybe like they then also, if they do this now, if they get a letter in the mail from Nintendo, because Nintendo actually did put a notice saying we're now investigating this legally. If they handle this before Nintendo even actually legally does anything about it, then they can just be like, ah, no, we did this on our own accord because of our fans, and boom, brownie points. Now everyone loves them, and
yeah,
bada bing, better marketing, and then break even more records. Whoa.
yeah. The only thing I'll say is, do we really want to give Pokemon the sway of just it's like, oh, you made black and white dog wolf Pokemon, can't do that. Like, the having a similar style, it's because I've seen games that are very clearly like, oh, someone put them in a Pokemon mixer or whatever. And this is definitely not that case. There's definitely a lot of influence, sure. I just don't think that we need to give Pokemon, the, oh, I'm so sorry, we got a little too close. Let's give you some more breathing room because you're a multi-million-dollar company who can't afford to make a good-looking game. So,
I think there are like a couple that Palworld where I look at, I'm like, okay, come on. And I say there are just a couple. The wolf one I bring up is like, it isn't just like, oh, you designed a wolf. It is, okay, you switch the colors around slightly because like it is the same.
It's still actually quite different.
I disagree. If you like, I'm looking at a picture of them next to each other. That is shockingly very similar. That one specifically is the one I point to where I'm like, that is the one where I'm like, this is the most similar, but also I don't think it's the biggest condemnation of like, don't buy Palworld because of this. I think that like, I think the game is good. I think the game is fun. I really enjoy it. I also think that at this point they have the money to just be like, they can add some more. They can redesign a couple of them. They don't lose anything. If anything, they only gain if they redesign some of the more complained stuff, because then it sounds like they listen to the community.
Yeah, I mean, and I get, well, I don't know. I agree, but also the people who are complaining are the ones who are not going to be happy no matter what.
Yeah, there are the people who will complain, and then it also gets the people who are already like, it gets those 7 million to then if they start like petering out, and then suddenly if the player number starts dumping down, they're like, oh my god, the pocket pair, they're so cool, and then they come right back. I don't know.
I don't think anyone cares that badly.
I think there's a strategic time to drop it, and it's really smart marketing to hit that just at the right time.
I would much rather they just actually just put more shit in the game and fix some of the problems. I would rather they spend development time doing that than reskinning something because it's too similar to Pokemon.
Oh yeah, there's the Luxray one. That one is also.
Don't get me wrong. I think there are some that are very heavily inspired, but like, so what? Like, someone made a post of Dragon Quest monsters that Pokemon were very obviously inspired by as well.
Oh yeah.
So I
don't care that much.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Pokemon company gets ripped off. I don't care.
But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the subject of today's chat. The constant getting dunked on by Pathfinder by I wouldn't say predominantly 5e content creators, most notably by Dnd5e content creators. And in this, I want to preface all of this with saying that I don't think I've seen many who are intentionally doing this and being malicious about it.
No, I think that's the important aspect. It's something I've been thinking about ever since like we had a little convo about it. So I was trying to think about like, all right, what are my full honest opinion about like all of this? And a lot of it kept going down to like, what would every person talk about if like we pressed them on however they talked about it? And always be like, I'm just giving my review, I'm just giving my opinion on it. It's like, yeah, 100%. And none of them would ever be like, I'm not trying to like shit on Pathfinder and get people to like not play Pathfinder. Like not intentionally. It's like, yeah, no, 100% not intentionally doing this. But it is a trend that's something that we notice.
Yeah. Well, and that's the main point. So first of all, let's talk about what kind of inspired this. Bob World Builder. It's not Bob the World Builder, but Bob World Builder. Though I guess he was christened as the World Builder by Matt Mercer, so I don't know. And I've watched his content before. I actually watched the video in question prior to the tweet. Someone had made a tweet with a clip from one of his more recent videos, where in the video he says the overly complex Pathfinder, and that's it. You know, when I watched it, I didn't even think a thing about it. I just moved on. It was very clear by the video that he prefers rules light, and so like I was already kind of tuned out just because while I think rules light is fine, it's nothing I'm super interested in as far as TTRPGs. Like I'll enjoy some rules light, sure. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I dislike it, but when I'm looking for new games, I'm not looking for rules light. And most of the games he was talking about in the video anyway were just kind of like, either they were like D&D-esque games or something OSR related, you know, which
Yeah,
are
it was
just
like
not my jam either.
the videos were all like alternatives to D&D games. I watched like a good chunk of that video, which I gotta say, I watched my first Bob World Builder videos today because I don't watch tabletop content. I gotta say though, he's an entertaining creator. I actually think he's one of the better ones I have watched.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy his content. But so the thing was, is someone brought it up, and you know, obviously, for people who really care about Pathfinder, and they see yet another big content creator, pretty much unintentionally as it may be, taking a dig at Pathfinder by calling it overly complex. Like, that's the thing, right? He could have said it any other way. He could have said, or the more complex Pathfinder, or like Pathfinder. He didn't have to say the overly complex parts. And thus, it makes it sound like he thinks that Pathfinder is too, like, it has more complexity than necessary. And in some places I would agree, but not always. And in overall, as a general statement, I disagree. And so someone obviously, like, and genuinely just felt kind of annoyed about this. And so he goes on, and he's just like, oh, I'm not talking about that. I also say 5e is overly complex. And it's just like, well, yeah, but see, that's the problem, is 5e is a huge mega game in the scene, and everyone talks shit about D&D, right? Even nowadays, especially. But Pathfinder's not D&D, and so with the history Pathfinder has as well, it just feels unnecessary. And that's kind of the thing. And don't get me wrong, I watched the video, I didn't really think anything of it. I replied to his tweet saying, well, it seems like you're implying this, and people are touchy because of what's been happening. I was just explaining the situation because, you know, in typical fashion, someone has someone say something negative about what they make, and they get a bit defensive. Yeah, the complexities sound like an objective flaw. That's the part that is frustrating, and he doesn't mean it. And he made a video talking about it, and even then, in that video, he just said it wasn't for him. You know what I mean? He is right to have his opinion. I don't care what anyone thinks about Pathfinder, like, on a personal level, right? But the problem with this, and the problem with some of the other stuff we'll talk about, is content creators are not free of consequence for the things they say, regardless of intent, right? That's the frustrating part on all ends, because the content creator themselves is frustrated because they feel like a lot of the stuff they have to say or do has to be extra curated so they don't say something to upset people, right? But on the flip side, it's upsetting for people who are in the game, for instance, that you're talking about, who are like, he said that thing, and now there's a good bunch of people who are not going to check it out now because they keep hearing how complex it is. And I will say, Bob's video is so not a problem, right? It was a passing line. If you weren't focused in the moment, you're just gonna miss it. It was not the point of the video. He mentions it once. It was just something that someone pointed out because they're obviously tired of it, and I understand why people are tired of it. Now, that's contrary to Mr. Rex's video, one we've talked about here on the channel before, where the guy literally said multiple times that he enjoyed the game, and then he went on and made like a 40-minute video and just bashed the game or said how it was inferior to D&D for a majority of it.
Yeah, that's where I at least came at it, because I also responded to that tweet. The point I made through it was specifically I observing it. I feel like what has happened here is I guess also based on the chat message here from Oyman. The thing I think it also happens is Pathfinder fans are also now in this state where, like, if we feel like we have to be kind of more defensive of Pathfinder, like have to play defense, because it's just so common for a bigger person in the space to come in and they're like, Pathfinder, it's so cool. However, and then proceed to shit on it for a while.
Yeah.
It's a common thing. I don't think that, obviously, I don't think Bob was doing that. It's
No.
just, the
It is such a
problem
passing
is,
remark.
yeah, the problem is it's figuring out the method of fixing it, because I think that overcorrecting it is a bad deal, because I don't know. I feel like there's both methods of, yeah, I think, actually, is there someone about to make the point I'm making? It's a good video called Subjectivity is Implied, where you don't have to say, in my opinion, before everything you say when it's obvious you were talking about subjective things. See, that's at least the vibe I always take in the content I make, because I always want to make it clear that I don't think anything I say is objective. Unless I don't know, I'm a person. I just kind of state how I feel about things, always.
Mm-hmm.
Because the alternative is that every, like, YouTuber has to talk like a politician to possibly not, like, make a full opinion on something, to not, like, offend a person. But on the other hand, there are times where someone just makes a shit review. Because, I don't know, I feel like there is a shit review where someone is like, I liked it, and then shits on something for 30 minutes, and then ends it with, yeah, and I liked it.
Okay, and so,
That's not a good review.
yeah, and we talked about that too. And we'll probably mention that as well. But so let me address some things here, because this is a lot of misconceptions, and it's because of the perspective people are trying to take. So the whole how much of it is Pathfinder 2e fans being overly reactive though, and how much of it is intentionally dunking? And we started this with I haven't seen many people actually intending to do harm to Pathfinder besides maybe the taking 20 guy. And
since
even
he was like lying
then,
about like,
well, yeah,
he misrepresented the game inherently.
yeah, and even then, like, his initial video was more just why he was changing from Pathfinder and what he perceived as a problem with it, right? Rather than like him doing an intentional hit piece. So, but that's kind of actually that actually doesn't matter what their intent is. And what Quag Meher 26 says is, there's a good video called, you just quoted this one, but I'm referencing it, where you don't have to say in my opinion before. I made a mistake because I in response was like, well, you didn't mention it was your preference in the video, and I understand he doesn't have to. In fact, it's silly that you would take anything anyone says in their video as not their opinion, because it's not like he's coming across as a professional giving you a fact. So obviously it's his opinion, right? And that's exactly what that subjectivity is implied means. But the problem isn't what he means. And that's why I said the whole you gotta watch what you gotta say kind of stuff. Because the thing is, in the end, he just doesn't have to care. I don't think there's a problem with disliking a game. You know what I mean? He just doesn't have to care. But when someone calls out and say, hey, I'm tired of people talking shit about my game, and he's just like, I wasn't trying to talk shit about your game, he's ignoring what that person is saying and just being defensive instead. You know what I mean? Rather than acknowledging what that person is actually trying to say, which is they're tired of people needlessly punching down on Pathfinder, especially in the Dnd5e content community. And and he didn't have to care about theirs. He could have said, yeah, that's fair. I'm not gonna overly tailor what I say, but I at least understand where you're coming from, but he didn't. And that's kind of, and I'm not saying that he owed that kind of response or anything like that. I'm just kind of saying that was more or less the reason why I spoke up about it, is just to kind of clarify that it's not, because the thing is, his opinion matters. His opinion and his preferences matter.
Oh, 100%. I think I watched some of his videos. I liked it. Also, as the guy who prefers rules light, I'm gonna have to check it out, because if he's got some good rules light content, I'll probably hard skip the D&D stuff because I don't care about D&D. But the one thing I will criticize about the response to it is, I think that one thing he's doing that I'm noticing is a large bit that he was referencing is like, if you take in the context of my channel, you'll know that I don't feel this way. Which is, I think, a thing of putting the idea that people that are subscribed to you have seen all your videos or have paid attention to all your videos in the same aspect that you, the guy who created them, has. Where not everyone has watched all your content, not everyone has like really knows you the same way you do. Where I was curious when this happened, I was like, okay, I'm actually curious. What are his opinions on Pathfinder? And so I found a video of his he made a year ago on Pathfinder. He has a video called the two best alternatives to Dnd5e, and he spends like a good like 8 minutes talking about Pathfinder, and he talks about like, yeah, this game is amazing, and he ends it. The harshest critique he gives Pathfinder is he says it is not for me because I do not like all of the options. And then he gives another one of the same level of like praise because this one's a little more to his personal taste of there are less options, so I feel less overwhelmed. To where that I think is a fair overall review and fair like personal way to share these options. I think it's really cool. But the problem is not everyone's going to know that context of a video made a year ago. That is, I think, one of the problems of approaching with that aspect, where he's really approaching it from the idea that everybody in this Twitter thread has seen that video of his. I didn't. I saw it because I was curious after seeing all of this and talking to Cam.
Well, and not only that, but like I said, he's just like, it's just my opinion. Like, that somehow absolves the things he says having any impact. You know what I mean? That's the problem, right? Is with most of these, with like Mr. Rex and everyone else, they're just talking about their experience and their preferences. And it's just like, it's so natural. We do it all the time. We talk like this all the time, right? So it is a very difficult and hard concept that when you gain some kind of like following, the things you say start having more weight, which means the things you don't mean might gain meaning in ways you didn't intend. And was the clip taken out of context by someone else? No.
Actually, no. It was very well just the exact point of he was introducing a game that he believed did what Pathfinder was doing, but not I guess, as he puts it, overly complicated like Pathfinder is, in his eyes. The clip, honestly, is largely the point. It is surprisingly, I thought it was taken out of context. It was not.
No, well, because again, it wasn't intended to be anything. He wasn't making a point with Pathfinder being relevant, you know. He was making a comparison, but in that comparison, he just painted Pathfinder in a less than favorable light for like the 5 seconds that he talked about it. He just said, or the overly complex Pathfinder. It was like that's it. It's like it was just a game that he was talking about, that he was praising its how easy it is to use in comparison. No, he didn't put up the clip himself. Someone else clipped that from his video. Because that was what they were talking about. I don't know how that's relevant. So, regardless, this isn't about Bob, okay? Like I said, Bob is fine. He doesn't like Pathfinder. That's okay. I think that's fine that he doesn't like Pathfinder. I think it's okay that he thinks it's overly complicated. You can't tell someone how complicated a thing is. My God, the number of people who tell me that Foundry's not complicated. And I'm just sitting here like, guys, please. It's actually kind of hard for me. I'm not going to lie. You know?
This situation, like, where the most I honestly have to critique about this is I think his response to it isn't the greatest, but I still walk away from this being like, I think Bob is a good dude, a good creator. I think his take is fine. Yeah. Like, I think in that moment he made a little jab that, like, whatever. I literally cannot judge. I do the same shit in my videos with the exact same purpose, so I cannot judge.
I don't even think it was a jab. I don't think it was really intentional. It was just, he just thinks Pathfinder's overly complicated. So when he compared it, that was just as natural as breathing to him in that moment. The problem is it's a negative comment. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's his opinion or if it's his preference. It's negative. Like, there's no other way to construe it. It's a negative perception on the game that he has, that he, like, through the comments, was saying, no, he does think it's overcomplicated. That's just what it is. The thing is that he didn't realize by saying it that people were going to take it the wrong way. You know what I mean? Because, again, for him, it was just a throw line. No, he believes Pathfinder is overly complicated.
His take is that he does not like the amount of choices and decisions. Like, there's just too much in the game for him. I at least interpreted it in like that it is like a joke or a jab, because when I read it in that moment, it was, oh, this is formatted exactly like a joke I would make. I don't know. I can't read his mind. I am not associated with his channel. I don't watch his content. I'll trust the people who've watched more of his content than me, who's seen two videos total by him. Mainly, though, the point of it also is the people who have largely made reviews on it that I think are a lot worse when it comes to it. Because also, like, I don't think, even for example, like Puff and Forrest or Mr. X are also like bad people.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing I can say about like Mr. Rex is that Mr. Rex just has weird takes about D&D.
He does have some pretty bad takes.
Puff and Forrest is just kind of goofy, and like he just plays the game more in a fun, goofy way, and I don't think Pathfinder is fully his cup of tea. And then Taking 20 is a weird guy who should let his players have freedom of choice.
And also just play the game the way it was designed.
Yeah, instead of like just, you know, telling players, no, you can't have that, and then be like, why does this game not have freedom of choice? But no, you can't do that.
And funny enough, you mentioned that in your Rook. Someone else in the tweet, I think, mentioned Fantasy Age as well. So, and yeah, Taking 20's channel also just doesn't really exist anymore, which is also true. But let's move away from Bob. Like I said, Bob's fine.
Fine.
Like, I'm just talking about what started this idea, right? I don't have a problem with what you said. Someone did, and that's just what I was trying to explain, and try to represent to everyone here, especially, what that problem is, which is there's just a lot of actual like big content creators in the hundreds of thousands of subscribers who just say very negative things about Pathfinder with no thoughts to the repercussions. No, like, because it's so unnecessary, right? Mr. X is one of the more egregious ones, especially as he's, I still think, the biggest content creator for 5e who's not like Critical Role. Why does this game have no freedom of choice about 5RT, which has tons of... Yeah. We'll get to Taking 20 too, because that one started Pathfinder 2e YouTube, actually. It's really funny. Nonat got his start so there with that. Funny enough. But so Mr. Rex was like, all right, I've been playing this game, I've been having fun, and I'm gonna make a video about what they don't tell you about Pathfinder, because that's kind of like his thing. And then in the video, he's like, okay, this isn't like my normal videos, right? I'm just going to be telling you about my experience. I'm just using my branding to talk about it, right? So it's like, okay, cool. And then he spends the whole time comparing the two games, and then it seems very strange that everything he talks about in D&D is positive, and everything he talks about in Pathfinder is negative. And not only that, he just has fundamental misunderstandings on how the game works, and he's jumping deep into the math of the game without like fully comprehending why it was balanced the way it was, you know. And then like Alex said, he just has some weird takes in the video that just make no sense and doesn't help his own argument. Like,
there were some really funny bits that you were explaining to me, like in a call that I had. I was like playing. I remember it so vividly, just playing Resident Evil 4 like remake, and then having to pause my game every once in a while as you explain to me something, and I'm like, wait, excuse me? It's like the one bit that gets me is like there was a take he has about how he hates the fact that in Pathfinder other classes other than cleric can do healing. Like you can make a
Yeah.
barbarian healer. Like he didn't like
He
that.
didn't like the idea that a barbarian could be a healer.
This is Mr. Rex,
Mr.
by the
Rex,
way.
yeah, James.
Yeah, like I don't understand how you could hate like having, because that's a big problem I have with 5e, obviously, is like I really don't like that you have to only do magical religious healing. You can't just, have medicine, or there's no doctors in Faerun. It's only religion.
And then what's funny is then he gets upset that he can't be a wizard who uses the sword as well as a martial. So he contradicts himself in his own video. But one of my other takes of his that I really dislike is he kept harping on the fact that like a goblin couldn't physically hurt like a level 20 character or something like that. And it's like, so you want your party to be challenged by low-level goblins at level 20, is what you're telling me. I know that's not his take. He just is stuck on the math without really understanding what it represents. Wizards should use swords. See, again, wizards can use swords. I mean, they're not going to be as good as another martial, but you can still stab a bitch as a wizard, you know? Like
you can make Gandalf.
You can make Gandalf easy. You can, if you play right, you can be somewhat decent with a sword, you know. And it's a lot of misinterpretation of the system without understanding like the depth. And there's this huge misconception in general of people who don't know how to do encounter design, and so they're like, oh yeah, you're always fighting same level targets or whatever. People aren't throwing lower level enemies at their players so that the players can, try things out, in a safer environment without it being life or death. Yeah, variant rules. Yeah, I mean, everyone here understands.
I mean, actually, yeah, I'm actually really curious too. I mean, I think his point also is like, that if a goblin in Dnd5e like nat 20s, can still hit a level 20 character. But then I just really quickly am like, what is a goblin stats in 5e again? It's like a +4 to hit, and it does a d6 +2 damage. And it's like, yeah, it rolls a +4 to hit, and most people around like level 20, if they're martial, they're gonna have like probably like a 20 AC or something.
Well, that's not even the point. They have 200 HP. The goblin could crit and not do like a percent of their damage.
Yeah.
Or not, like 10% of their health, like, and then another one of his points in the video he made specifically, it was like, a bunch of level 1s fighting a dragon, right? And he's like, I like that it's possible if they do some planning and do whatever, that they can do it. But in Pathfinder, you can't. And it's just like, well, you look at the math and it's like, it's still possible. And in fact, in D&D, it's actually less possible because of like dragon breath. If they're in the dragon's breath area and they're that low level, they're just going to die because they're going to take half of like a bazillion damage. If the dragon does some planning, those level 1s don't have a chance.
Yeah.
Like, and not only that, but like the story is silly, right? You're telling me that you want dragons to be killed by level 1 players who can cheese it. That's more interesting for your setting, right? The point was that he played Pathfinder, and I'm sure he's seen many people talking about how Pathfinder is better. And so, he just kind of wanted to prove that D&D was better in his video, which is super disingenuous to do with a video where he's trying to talk about Pathfinder, and Pathfinder's the theme of the video.
I think I think what it is inherently, and that I think is later on proved with the infamous tweets that then went viral.
Yeah.
Is I think it's a thing of he is just really, really connected
I think I
Has a
have. Yeah, I still
really
have the tweet here.
yeah, but you still have the tweets.
Yeah.
I ask that you read them verbatim after I make my point. He has a real soft spot, like a real like connection to D&D, and all this bit that like Pathfinder is a D&D killer, even if it wasn't intentional. Like fully conscious, like he didn't go into the video being like, okay, this is my plan. I'm going to prove that D&D is better. I think subconsciously there's the part of him that is like, no, but like this is my thing. I need to prove that D&D is still better. Because as the tweet shows, as as the tweet shows, he can't enjoy D&D unless the word drow and magic missile are in the game.
Yeah, Pathfinder, but yeah.
Pathfinder, yeah. Because that is oh my god.
Yeah, it's I have another one, but we don't need to overly harp on it.
It is like it's a funny take. It's just I don't know, man. It's just a really funny take.
And again, right? The biggest thing about this is he is free to enjoy 5e more than Pathfinder.
You can enjoy it.
No one should have a say in what he prefers, and people can think he's wrong, sure, but that doesn't make him wrong. He can just enjoy D&D more. He has more of a connection to the setting. He enjoys it because he can get more immersed. I'll be the first to say, I like Pathfinder 2e. It's my favorite TTRPG right now. I can't get into the setting to save my life. It's really difficult for me. I miss Anima Beyond Fantasies like world and setting so much. We had so many good things in that game, and I love that world so much.
What if you just did Anima's lore, but with Pathfinder?
See, I thought about that. The hardest part about it is, like, the thing is, magic is supposed to be broken in Anima.
Yeah.
And you can't do that in Pathfinder 2e.
Well, all you have to do is just make anybody that isn't magical, make them have 1 HP. Just make like a regular ass person. So that
well, no, just anyone who plays a magic caster in our Anima game, they start at level 10.
That also would work. Start them at level 10, and then to fix it, just like half their HP.
It doesn't have to be fixed. That's the thing. It's just broken in Anima.
Yeah, magic casters are just broken. It's just that's the vibe.
And that's why it's hard, because like that's like the whole point of the setting, and whatever. Anyway,
it is a fun setting.
The thing is, he's free to do this, but the fact that he made this video damages the hobby. It damages people who want to play Pathfinder 2e. The number of people I saw in the comments of that video who were like, "Oh, I was thinking about trying it out, but now I'm not going to." And that hurts. And
yeah,
the same thing with Bob World Builder, just saying it's overly complicated, and it's like someone hears that and they're like, "Oh, I was kind of thinking about looking at it, but I kind of like what Bob does with his games, so I'm not gonna check it out." You know, like, whether you want to or not, these people have weight with the things they say, and you have to ask the question: was it necessary? Was it necessary for Bob to call it overly complicated? No, but it wasn't intentional either. I'm not gonna blame him for it. It's his opinion, and it's fine. There's just consequences to that, you know? Like, people are going to be upset what he said, and he's just going to have to be okay with that, because you can't make everyone happy, because what he said was mostly harmless, you know? And with Mr. Rex said he was enjoying the game, and he was just kind of airing his grievances that he perceived with the game. But the problem is, like, how many people have seen that video at this point?
Yeah, that one I always feel like is the worst example, because like I'm a guy that I like to think I'm pretty good at media critique. That's been a large chunk of my educational background for a good while, doing film stuff, doing film production, and also it's just something I enjoy in my free time, both as an enjoyer of that content and as someone who has done it myself. I gotta say, it is a very bad style of review to be like, I really like this thing, and then have a fuck ton of bad points sandwiched in, and just be like, I hate this. This is all the reasons it's bad, and then end it with, and this is why I like it, and I had fun.
Yeah.
It's why we all dunked on the Nostalgia Critic for a good while. Because like that's what the Nostalgia Critic did, and like it's annoying, and it's bad critique. It's just bad form.
His video, by the way, 1,200 or yeah, 122,000 views. That is, I'm not gonna say more than like all of Pathfinder 2e content creators combined, but that's definitely more than I think any individual Pathfinder 2e content creator has ever done. I might be wrong, honestly. Nonat might have a higher video at this point. I never know. I'm so frustrated that I've been making so much Pathfinder content and so much content, and I make more content than most tabletop content creators, honestly, on the daily. No, Nonat does have one that's 190k, so I was wrong. But I don't have any videos that are over like 20k views. I find that so tragic. Anyway, so yeah, 122,000 people saw that video. Part of it, sure, probably the first, like, not tons of it, sure, but there's still
like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, there's still a ton of people who, and it was obvious because you look in the comments, who were turned off by it. You know, taking 20. I think had even more, honestly. I think it was like 200 and something. Don't compare, it's a never-ending hole. Well, except the part of you need views to succeed on the platform. So, I'm trying to succeed on the platform. I understand what you're trying to say, I do, but it is important that my videos get views, and I'm doing my best. And thank you, Ouroboros. I appreciate that. And we'll get there. We'll get there. You know, it's all a game of just playing to the algorithm, and I have a strong feeling with the videos we're gonna put out this year, we're gonna have a lot of views at the very least. This video is the 11th most watched video on Pathfinder, with the first 10 being positive or positive leaning. What? That's not true at all. What are you talking about? I'm pretty sure one of the most viewed videos in all of Pathfinder is the Taking 20 controversy.
Oh my god. Well, technically, the most viewed Pathfinder video is the Puff and Forest our animated RPG story.
Filter.
Well, it's still actually let's see, by most views, by going down down the line, just Pathfinder 2e, then you filter by most views. It's Puff and Forest, animated 2e story, the infamous TPK module, how it's played playlist to teach you how to play.
We don't count playlists.
That's fair. Puff and Forest, the 2nd edition review and thoughts, which I know there are some issues with that video too.
Yeah, both of these have issues.
Taking 20, the fast start and introduction. Taking 20, 5e versus Pathfinder 2e. Taking 20, I'm quitting Pathfinder. Puff and Forest, I've been running Pathfinder for over a year. Hey, that one's just a short. Learning Pathfinder as a D&D veteran by
that one is a positive one.
And then No Nats. 5 major differences between Dnd5e and Pathfinder 2e. That is a Zedrin video.
Well, and I'm not saying you're wrong, James. I'm just saying it's just the truth of the matter is that most content that's being viewed is more on negative stuff than positive.
People want that, like, to see. It's just also it's more interesting because you'll get the clicks from more people when it's inherently a negative video. Because if it's a video on something you like, you're like, well, I already like this thing. I know why I like it. I don't need to hear why another person does. When
Yeah.
it's like, I hate this thing, you're like, well, I like this thing. Why do they hate it? How dare they hate it? Or, well, I hate this thing. Yeah, I hate this thing. I also hate it. Fuck yeah. There's so many extra avenues like to enjoy a video on dunking on something. As someone who enjoys me a good hater, uh,
I
I do
I
watch
don't.
that
It just
content.
makes me angry. I wish I could stop.
It depends on it. Sometimes I do like just dunking on something. I always will click off if I'm like, this is just in bad spirit. Sometimes I'm like, this is funny dunking. If it's like this is dunking on something every once in a while is important. If it's like just something that's shit and kind of deserves it.
Yeah,
But
but like
for no reason like this, like taking 20s, taking 20 is the one egregious one where I'm like, okay, that one
like
is the one that gets me every time.
the point isn't that drama draws views. It's that these drama-filled videos are some of the first videos people find looking up Pathfinder 2e stuff. So, and it's not even just that alone. It's actually not even that. It's the fact that these people with massive audiences uh, see Pathfinder in rather negative lights. And that's affects people. It does. Like, whether you think people are so easily swayed or not, unfortunately, people very much are. And that mostly just entails like how much stock people put into like TTRPGs or games. If you're super casual, someone telling you a game sucks is enough to dissuade you. But that's still potential money that's not coming in to that game, you know. And the bigger the audience, the more likely that is to happen. I'm not saying these people are bad. We started this whole thing. I prefaced with no one here has been maliciously attacking Pathfinder. And I understand that. I don't think Mr. X is bad. I don't think Puffin Forest is bad. But taking 20 guys a little bit more on the questionable side. And Bob World Builder is definitely not bad. But that doesn't mean bad people can, or good people can still do bad things. Good people can still have negative impacts, even if it's unintentionally. How much that's owed to them is something that we could talk about, but it's still an unavoidable circumstance. Yeah, and that's the thing. They can play games that you think are crappy, you know. I won't say that because I definitely understand the value of rules like games. Yeah, it did sound like he was genuinely a terrible DM.
Yeah, reading through that story is like a fucking trip. It is really funny and a little vindicating to go through it and be like, yeah, that video's been the top of like Pathfinder for so long, and then be like, yeah, it's because he kept doing weird homebrew rulings and like just saying that like, no, I won't allow that rule, but here it is in the book. Nah, that's not what the designers
Yeah.
intended though. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dog?
Yeah, and like that's kind of the point of the day. I mean, besides taking 20, because you know, fuck that guy. Most of these content creators I think are fine. The problem is that a lot of content creators in general don't understand the power they have because it's not a very conscious act. And it's something that is difficult to manage. Cypher system is great for simple fun. We have to try Cypher at some point. I keep hearing things about it. I wish when the channel gets big enough and I have a bunch of money, I'm holding an invisible cup. Then we'll play tabletop all the time. But until then, we're just gonna have to manage. Definitely, there's a lot of games I want to try out, honestly. At least they're starting to play different games of Boring 5e. Yeah, we're actually in a pretty big change for content creators in general. And, like, DM's Layer, who is someone I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the things he says on this channel, honestly. I've seen some very questionable videos from my perspective. He's so into Pathfinder, which is great, you know?
I know. I don't know anything about that channel. I do. Well, actually, don't you mean that the golden age has ended, Cam?
The golden age has ended. That was so funny.
It's so funny. He's moving on. That guy was hard ignoring that thread, just going on like it didn't happen. It's so funny.
And you know what? Fucking go at it, my guy.
I respect it.
That's the thing, right? Because honestly, like the thing that happened with Bob, he could have just ignored it and it would have been fine. It would have been probably less brought up because of it. But I've been seeing it all over the place on Twitter because of everything. Same thing with Indestructible. Like he could just ignored the comments and it would have been probably less damaging for him in the end. At least my opinion of him, at the very least. And this guy, at the very least, everyone says he's wrong. Everyone's justified to dunk on this guy, though it is sad how many people agree with him. But at the very least, man, stick to your guns, you know.
I respect being the main character and just getting dunked on completely and then just going on like, all right, I got what I deserved. I'm just going to keep going. And then later on, he made a later thread that I was reading through. I'm like, oh, that's a fair point, actually. Like, I forget what it was on, and I was like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of understandable. Like, it was like a large point about how D&D is moving on to like a subscription service and like how it's going to be altering its like content strategy. And I'm like, oh, I've been saying this for a while. Yeah, true. This is good points. Like, hell yeah, that you just had one really weird take. I respect it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, you know, anything's wrong with Indestructible. I just had a negative experience with him.
I mean, yeah, his other stuff can be fine. That one review he did of Candle Obscura was, I still think, a really shit review. Like, and how it was formatted.
It was very disingenuous.
Not good. And in the same way that, like, I've seen some other reviews on the game, some that had good parts of it, others that were just shit reviews. You can be a decent reviewer in like other aspects or a decent like content creator, and then every once in a while make a bad like media review. I just think it was not very good.
Oh, did D4 drop Pathfinder 2e? That sucks.
Oh, damn.
I haven't watched this stuff, so. Yeah, and you know what? Like, I think that's a very valid reason. And, you know, that's the thing. He can be right and people can still hate him for it. Like, a lot of this stuff, like the Indestructible thing, is just like, he can still be a good guy and just have bad experiences with other people, you know? Like, I had a conversation with him and it was very negative. He never took anything I said into consideration and gave a lot of bad faith into everything I said. It was a very, like, I don't know how anyone could go through that and not be upset by it. You know what I mean?
The most telling thing was when he did a thread after accusing Wizard of the Coast about like AI art, about saying that like ever since the OGL stuff, he's been more inflammatory and like really quick to be like an internet crusader. That whole like thread about leaving Twitter he did, where I was like, there it is, I called it. Where just he's been kind of riding the high of being right and wanting to do that, like, I guess just be that person who's fighting the good fight and doing good in the space, and as such, like, if someone's disagreeing with you, now they're a bad guy and you can interpret them in bad faith and go through all that aspect. That's what I was reading really hard. I was like, I know these debate tactics. I've seen them in politics, in political Twitter spaces, and I'm seeing them in tabletop. But it's being done for a tabletop game for review that is just very poorly structured, and you're not explaining your points very well.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, I think as people we also have to understand, because this is something I've been learning more and more and more. People can be wrong, and that can't ruin your day, you know? That's just it. Like, or people can be both right and wrong at the same time. It's hard for me to ignore because I care so much about the hobby that I mean, I like literally we're having a chat here today of me looking at these people, and rather than just reaming into them, which would be the easiest thing to do, being like, they're not bad people. This is the thing. Let's try to understand it, and like also it's okay to dislike it, you know. But you like there's so many points I could have just left things. And like I'm practicing leaving things more and more because some people are not in the right position to be convinced by anything you say, you know. And like the Indestructible Boy situation, I'm sure he was super on edge because of his video, which is fair. And I'm sure he has had a lot of terrible conversations online. So, you know, like, what was my conversation other than just one of the many, you know? But that's the problem. For him, it was another commenter. For me, it was Indestructible Boy.
Yeah.
Two very different situations, you know?
Exactly. I gotta say, I gotta say how the 5e YouTube sphere survives off of class guides. Yeah, that's how I feel about whenever I see like 5e build conversations. Ever since getting into Pathfinder, where I'm like, ooh, what is it this time? Are you gonna add a warlock to it? Are you feeling
Is
spicy?
how much paladin levels for smite are you gonna put in?
It's
bonks.
so funny.
Rude. I don't go to what did it destruct. It wasn't even really on Twitter, though. He did make a Twitter thread afterwards, which was so funny.
It was
Bonk, why?
Indirect.
Why bonk?
I activated that. Yeah, it was an indirect or a subtweet that in the comments of his Candle Obscura video.
Yeah, he because I mentioned somewhere in our comment in the comment thread that I made a video about a review, and he watched my video, I guess, and he's just like, and then he goes on Twitter and he's just like, I can't believe we're talking about that reviews don't need to be guides or whatever. Like, I can't believe we're having this conversation. It's just like, I never mentioned that it had to be a guide or how to play or anything like that. None of my arguments were based around any of that whatsoever. He literally looked into my stuff just to attack what I do because I made something similar.
Yeah, and it's something I brought up in your like why you get the hate for Candle Obscura, which then someone was then trying to push at in the replies of like defending it. I think his defense that it's like it's not a guide, I don't need how to explain the game. It's like there's a certain amount of extent where you have to give context. And one of the weakest things that he did in that video was he would constantly compare it to something and then give zero justification of why the comparison is merited. He'd be like, yeah, it's like this is a carbon copy of this, and then move on. And it's like, I don't know what this game is. I don't know what you're fucking talking about, dog. What is that? What is the rule? What are you mentioning? When then the comment I got lives in my head rent free. It's just like, if a book like review said it's just a ripoff of Shakespeare and moved on, would you call that a bad point? Like, yes, I would call that a bad point, because then you should then make that point, finish it, describe which Shakespeare work, it is ripping off and explain how. Because that is an excellent point. You are dropping at somebody's feet. You are setting up a dunk and then dropping it at the mid court. Like that is what you're doing. And that is what frustrates me as a media like review. When you set up interesting points, which Indestructible kept doing, and then just like dropping the ball and then like turning around and leaving the court.
I've shrank the text of the chat. Let me know if this bothers anyone. I liked how readable it was before, but we're now getting so many chatters that most of what people are saying is just not getting on screen. Which, yay, we're getting more people chatting. I'm happy. But at the same time, I've been thinking this for a while. Looks much better, IMO. Okay. And yeah, like I agree. The idea of, well, because the thing is like another thing, it can't exist, is such a asinine idea that it's just like, what was the point of making it? So, yeah.
I don't know. That was the part that always frustrated me. It's like, because my through line throughout that entire little debacle of yours was like, I don't even care what you people think about Critical Role or Candle Obscura. The part that is frustrating me the most is how dog shit the reviews are, and like how bad the critiques are.
It makes me frustrated that one of the better actual reviews came from Black Lodge Gaming, even though half of that video was so nonsense. At the very least, he accurately described what the game was about.
I'm really happy I walked away understanding more of like how the game operates. I don't like that he then went on to talk about how story is bad, and then had a conversation in the comments with a person who said that if your tabletop game isn't an open world, perfect simulation ran by your DM where you can do whatever you want, you are not playing true tabletop.
Yeah.
So I guess anybody running like modules or anybody who has a main quest line, you're not running true tabletop, so you should probably stop playing the game.
Yeah, if you plan for your session ahead of time at all, you're just railroading.
Yeah, anyway, I asked him, the question I ask, because I get like this when I see weird people. I'm always like, I just need to know where the thought process was strictly. Okay, you have that absolute perfect situation, but you have a main quest. You just have a big bad you must fight. Like a threat in the world. Is that bad? The answer, yes. Which was insane to me. Yeah, I don't like them. They're
yeah,
oh
they're
my god.
I was so blown. It was such bad whiplash, right? Because people kept telling me in the comments, or in my comments, go check out Black Lodge Gaming's video. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll go check it out, because like I try to be as fair as possible. I try to take in as many different perspectives as possible. Hell, my video, which by the way I will have to say as well, that video was almost probably one of my best performing videos last year. It's like my second best performing video of the Why I Get It. By Wayne and I checked it out, and it was just like the beginning. Very easy to understand. He has a good level of charisma. It was good. And then there's just like a halfway mark. It's just like, and then suddenly just the most like red pill. I don't even know that's the right way to put it. But like the most, this is an abomination of tabletop. If you're not playing tabletop our way, you're doing it wrong. And also, we don't want your products to exist because we believe they're actually making tabletop worse.
Yeah, it's the kind of shit where I'm like, I get enough of this from the really shitty side of like the Warhammer community that I'm constantly dodging on Twitter, because like my Twitter feed is absolutely inundated with them to the point where what I'm doing is I'm just muting and blocking every account that engages with the people like that, because it's just, they spread and it's so fucking annoying and disingenuous, just gatekeeping weirdos, because all they do is go around and just shit on people 24/7. That's all they do. They don't even like engage with the hobby. They're too busy shitting on people to play the thing they say they enjoy. And that's the immediate energy I got from Black Lodge Games, and I was like upset about it. I'm
Yeah,
not a fan
their
of that.
Twitter is worse. We saw some of it when we had a table talk about it.
Yeah,
Something about them not wanting women to play tabletop, or it sounded like they were being facetious, but
yeah,
I wouldn't put it past them.
I'm certain that they would claim it was like a joke, an edgy joke they're making. Yeah, the one video of them saying that like the stop card is like it's not a game mechanic. What are you talking about? They were interacting with the idea like it is a mechanic in like a game of like the table, and that I don't know, people would find a way to gamify it and use it in a shitty way when it's like, I don't know, I've been in games with a lot of safety tools like that. It's never been abused.
Yeah, well, it's one of those
weird.
things where people see a thing and they see like the worst possible outcome and they assume that's like the intent, which is
or there's the
annoying.
shitty version where it's someone's like, well, that's what I would do, so I assume other people would do the same.
This is my first time joining your channel, live for your channel, and all I have really heard is the same stuff you guys complain about. This is my first time joining live for your channel, and all I have really heard is the same stuff you guys complain about.
No, you.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
I mean, that's just a no you. It's all that is. There's no substance there to reply to.
Like, we're saying the same stuff that we're complaining about?
Which part? The
Yeah.
the D&D people complaining about Pathfinder, the Black Lodge games, the content creators making bad media. You need to be specific than a nuh-uh.
Yeah, bad grammar, lol. Okay. Expound. Do you have a problem? I don't know. I want people to be heard, right? If you have something you would like to say, I will do my best to entertain it, as long as you're doing it in good faith. Which tabletop do we do the dive into Black Lodge Gaming's Twitter? Ugh, the fact that they share my
I don't know if we did it on TableTalk. It was just a thing you did. We did it. Did we do it on TableTalk?
We did talk about it on TableTalk.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just a thing we did on the side.
God. It must have been...
Was it the Candle Obscura one?
It must have been the Candle Obscura one, because...
It'd make the most sense.
That one would probably be the one. I don't know, if we keep saying Black Lodge Gaming over and over, it's probably that one. So that's what I'm gonna say is it was. I just discovered a new toxic wasteland in the space I don't want to engage with. Yeah, right. That's pretty much my reaction to it.
Yeah, just ignore that space. It's.
I know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And yeah, Cam is a nerd. That's true.
Proud. King of the nerds, one would say. That's what I used to call myself back in school, because there wasn't really many people willing to like indulge in nerdy hobbies back then, and I just embraced it.
I can't relate. I grew up around the time where nerd was just stopping being. There was like no punch to nerd when I was growing up. It was just like, it was a thing that was insulting only in like old cartoons, and then like that was kind of it. It's just like the only word for nerd was like just the stereotypical Poindexter with the pocket protector and the suspenders. And like, and if you weren't like that, then there was no punch to it.
Okay, let me try this again. What do you think channels can do to boost Pathfinder 2e? Talk about how much they enjoy it and show people like what they think the best parts are.
Though I do think there is the level of specifically, because I mean, I feel like Puffin Forest and Mr. X and such would claim that they've done that. It's just, would that be the effect that we can point to and say that they achieved? I feel like Puffin Forest, if anyone, has I feel like the more claim that they've earnestly tried to is they made a video like rubbing against Pathfinder in a way they didn't fully enjoy, and then came back at it again later with a video you can definitely point to, and we have said like still some issues that we can point at and note, but it was a largely more positive towards Pathfinder.
Yeah.
I think they would note, because then the alternative is that they make videos that are just sucking Pathfinder's dick and cannot be negative towards it in any way.
Yeah, and that's definitely not something I would necessarily want to either, but that's not necessarily boosting Pathfinder, as per the question. Granted, it's kind of like the idea of there's no such thing as bad publicity, because Mr. Rex and probably Pup from Forest probably brought people to Pathfinder just because people watching like, I want to check this out. I want to see what they say is true. It's really hard to say exactly what the effect is. But the thing is like, if you make a video just talking about the things you enjoy, your experiences, all that kind of stuff, then there should be no reason why anyone would watch it would be suddenly dissuaded from playing the game, right?
Yeah.
Where
there are methods to make good critiques of it. Honestly, I will say, I think that Bob World Builder did a genuinely fantastic sell of Pathfinder, in that he, for a game that he's very self-admittedly not a big fan of, he sold super well, gave a lot of great talking points, hyped up, gave community resources to, one of the few people shouting out the game that shouted out, hey, all the rules are free on Archive of Nethys. He shouted out YouTubers you can go watch to go see the rules and like learn how to play. He gave a complete pitch, talked about how Paizo is like a really cool company. They're very in tune with the hobby and the community and are really cool people. And then like at the end gave a, in my opinion, here are the issues I'm having with it and like the reason I don't fully mesh with it. There are the methods to do it correctly. I think Mr. Rex did it in a way that was very I don't know the right word for it. He didn't do it in the best way. As I've said multiple times, I don't think you sandwich a review in, I liked it, shit on it, oh, and that's the end of my review, I liked it.
Yeah, that's not a good review. It was a very contradictory review, which is...
Yes.
Like, one of the things you don't do, because something that I started recently, I'm going to be doing a series on why you should play what such and such game. Those games are not meant to be like reviews or critiques of the game. Those are just purely what is good about the game, because the argument the video is making is why you should play the game. There's no reason for me in that video to bring up any of its negative aspects, because that's playing counter to the point of the video. If you want something that you want to see possible problems of the game, then you can go out and check out a review of the game, which I'll also be doing reviews of each of the game. I'm starting out with Pathfinder. I recently started, I did a review for it, and then I did why you should play, and now I'm doing how to play. And that's what I'll be doing for a lot of other games as well, because that's what I feel like the general formula should be for a lot of tabletop games, is people talking about why they like it, people giving a concise review that's, you know, as unbiased as possible, and then a how-to guide for people who want to get the gist of what their first session is going to look like. And the like, Bob's great, and like I said, I don't have any problems with Bob. And it was a statement he made without thinking about it, and it wasn't even that big of a deal, but it still had repercussions regardless. And that's just the unfortunate part about being in the social space where hundreds of thousands of people see your content every day. Things you say just carry way more weight.
Another thing I'll bring up, as I guess to put some more weight into what I've been trying to say too. The content I make, which, by the way, hello, all the new people who might be hopping in. I am Glueboy. I make YouTube videos. It's linked in Camp's channel. I make videos on Warhammer and Vampire the Masquerade lore. It's largely what I cover. A thing I take very special care to do, because I think it's really shitty when people don't do this, is I actually am pretty upfront with my opinions on lore, because I see it a lot in like 40k, where someone makes a lore video and then they're like, I don't like this faction, so I'm going to spend the entire video just insulting the faction while delivering the lore, and so the video is kind of bad. So I'm very honest when I'm covering something that I don't like, and I will state my opinion, but then I also do my absolute best to represent it in a way that somebody who would enjoy and be a fan of the faction or character would still like. And the feedback I've gotten has been very positive. I've gotten people who have watched videos on factions and characters I don't like, things like the Black Templars or the Tau, and have come away either becoming fans of them, saying, I know you said you don't like it, but they actually sound really cool and I want to look into them more, or someone saying, hey man, I'm actually a giant super fan of this faction, and it's really refreshing to hear a cool review from a person who admittedly really doesn't like them. And that's something I take very special care into, because I think you can do both. I think you can be very honest and critique something and look at it from the lens of not liking something, while being honest enough to have it so people can look at it objectively and see if it would be for them. Though also to that point, there's in the end of the day, if you're engaging with something intellectually honestly, there's only so much you can do at the end, because then at that point it is sadly on the viewer end, where if someone wants to engage with your content uncritically and just feel what they want to feel and then decide not to be persuaded, like you said, Cam, some people just will decide, I don't want to be persuaded, they'll just live the way they want to live.
Yeah, and you know, those aren't the people you're aiming for. You know,
no.
I did law sales, and a law sales are like every good salesman gets 100 no's and 1 yes. That's the premise of if you try to sell something and they give you a rebuttal, you answer, and if they give you a second rebuttal, you're like, okay, it's not for you then. No hard sells, because hard sells are higher likely to get returns, which is not good. So when it comes to like tabletop stuff, you talk about the things you enjoy. You talk about your experience and what you like about it. And if someone asks you a question like, okay, but what about this? Or like, I don't really like this. You could be like, okay, if you don't like that part, that's fine. It's either not as bad as you might think it is, or there are ways around it. And if they're like, yeah, but it's still not for me, then you'd be like, cool, that's totally fine. And you're good to go, you know? The thing is, the reason why I get upset about things like the video Mr. Rex did, even though like from a very general standpoint, right, his video is not bad from the idea of he's just talking about his feelings about it. Like, he's expressing himself. He has the right to make that video, right? That's fine. But that doesn't mean there's not consequence for that, and that doesn't mean that it was still it's his right to make it, but it's still something that can be bad or negative.
There's a reframing that could be done better, because the video itself does really serve, like, he went into the comments later to be like, hey guy, like, it feels like a like trying to walk back at people who are saying, man, you know what, I was thinking about trying Pathfinder, maybe I won't, because he's like, I really do like Pathfinder though. And it's like, I don't know, if you need to make that statement clarifying that you enjoy Pathfinder in a video where you say multiple times you enjoy Pathfinder, maybe you don't enjoy it, or maybe the video didn't paint that you liked this game. There's certain aspects where your delivery cannot sell. It just happens. Also, damn, my apologies, you guys. The two factions I used as examples of the ones I hated were the immediate ones that got shouted out as their favorite factions. However, Necrons are based. I do love the Necrons. If I get the money to start a Xenos army, I want to run Crons. I do love them.
And you know what, James, I'm definitely guilty, especially earlier on. We used to shit talk Dnd5e a lot more often, and that was not necessarily correct. But you know, it's like the whole punching up thing. Like, what damage could I do, right? And that's one of the benefits of being a smaller content creator versus a larger one, is you can say whatever because it's not something that's that meaningful at that point. But still, it's the for like Pathfinder to D&D 5e, you still gotta let people enjoy the games they enjoy. If you enjoy 5e, I'm all for it. I hope whatever comes out this year for you guys is really good, for sure. I have nothing against 5e or even 5e content creators, but you know, the as I was saying, the reason why I get so upset is Mr. X could have just not made his video, and that would have been probably less harmful than if he did make it, even though he had every right to make it because that's his feelings and his opinion and his freedom as a creator to make those things. That doesn't mean there's not the consequences of it, you know. So like something can be right and wrong simultaneously. To be honest, I'm scared for later this year when WotC will release the new stuff. If there's people dunking on Pathfinder 2e on accident, hitting on 5e is a high-intensity sport in the TTRPG sphere. I do feel like people don't get enough exposure to the downside of 5e, at least specifically on YouTube. Sincerely hope 5e gets better content releases. I think Paizo needs to work on their marketing instead of trying to use content creators as free or reduced cost marketing. Why do you think Paizo is using content creators? Because as a Paizo content creator, I can tell you, they don't pay us money. The most they do is give us books for free.
Honestly, so, I would love that if Warhammer did that for me. I wish so bad, but I know I'll never get free content from them because I don't make painting content, so I'll never get free content from the game I make videos on.
Like, they're marketing as much as they can market, and they do it in all the places.
Also, it's, I don't know, largely in the tabletop sphere. Like, that is, I mean, that's the method of marketing your tabletop game. The marketing budget goes into providing free books to tabletop or to tabletop YouTubers. It's the alternative of what other marketing campaigns could be done. Like what? Like Twitter marketing? Like what other strategies can be done? Because there's not many. Like there's not many effective ones, because like D&D marketing is really effective because they have Hasbro money and can make games, DLC for like Minecraft. They can fund a movie production. They can do a lot of other stuff that puts like D&D in the face of average people. Paizo can't really match that money. It depends which the marketing strategy you would want to use, because it's just the problem of like tabletop isn't really big enough that certain larger marketing strategies wouldn't work.
Yeah,
the people who are largely into tabletop are all on YouTube, so by simply just providing content creators a thing they already want, and by making content creators happier by like, hey, here's a free thing early, you're making them happier, then they make content for you, and then boom, it's a really easy relationship for free.
Yeah, I think there's this also misconception. They're not like using content creators as a crutch. They didn't have content creators when they first made first edition, and they didn't really have content creators for a good portion of the beginning of second edition, you know. Also, they are marketing outside. The thing is you're finding it in places that you would naturally look for it. You can find it on Roll20. You look up games. Pathfinder second edition comes up in like the marketplace very commonly. They're actually going pretty hard into like Foundry and other VTTs as well. And I mean, they're doing the most they can. I've talked to Eric Mona about this kind of stuff, and they're doing the best they can. They have a constant Twitter presence from not only just their main accounts, but from their creators as well. So I don't know what you guys would want more than what they're doing, because honestly, the only step up would be to buy store space like Hasbro does.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like what they're currently doing is really effective marketing for the size of the company that they are, because genuinely speaking, there isn't much where if they were to invest a lot more money into doing more traditional marketing, you would have such reduced effectiveness that it is genuinely not worth the cost. Like you would just have such reduced investment, and to the point where if, say for example, they were doing some of the marketing that like I don't know, they were doing some of the marketing capabilities that even D&D was capable of. By putting it in the right next to D&D into absolute general market who are very unfamiliar with tabletop stuff, I feel like a lot of people would immediately just be like, "Oh, it's D&D." Not everyone obviously, but just general market that doesn't understand the difference. Just, oh, another fantasy thing. That's probably another D&D thing, and assume, oh, that's free publicity for D&D. It's just
Yeah.
at this point currently, all Paizo can do is the most effective marketing that is essentially the highest budget form of what indie studios on Twitter are capable of, which is YouTube advertising, Twitter Spaces, and at least they are able to market stuff with Roll20, which actually is really cool. And I did remember they also work with Foundry to do that Kingmaker campaign pack, which is very cool.
Very
And I
cool.
hope they do more stuff like that because that is also very effective. Having multiple aspects in many ways to play their content in different accessible methods is another great strategy.
Yeah.
So just basically putting it out in the sphere to make it as playable as possible is another great strategy. It's also, this is, by bringing this topic up, you triggered a guy who has a business degree. Chat, just letting you know, I studied marketing. I
And
like this. I like this topic.
and also, what a weird take to just attack the idea of content creators being a part of a marketing campaign. Literally every
That's the new
company does
age.
that.
That's literally where we are currently. That's the norm. There are companies that make their entire business model off of marketing content creators because it works. The entire mobile game industry, a large chunk of their marketing budget goes directly to YouTube ads because it works. Like that is just what you do. The reason that such big paychecks get funneled to YouTubers for those shitty mobile games is because like they can afford to spend it and because they get returns on their investments. Like it works, and it builds the market. So like it isn't a negative. It is just it is the more you see it is just more proof that it's working because if business people are spending money on it, it means it is working. It is generating revenue. Because the last thing they would do is spend money on something that doesn't make more money.
Paizo needs to push 2E video game license stuff. They are already doing so. I know they currently have something in the works. I don't know what it is, but I do know that they do have something they're currently, I think, in negotiations about.
I would love a 2E CRPG.
Yeah, definitely a 2E CR. Like the thing is that like Wrath of the Righteous was being developed when 1E was still a thing and before 2E. So, you know, they have another game coming out. I'll probably do a review when it finally releases, the one by Bickham Studios, and they have another game coming out. So they're already doing that too. So like again, I don't know what your problem with content creators for Pathfinder is. Or if you think it's ineffective, then I guess you're just wrong because it is effective, and in addition, Pathfinder's doing pretty good, honestly. They just can't compete with Hasbro. So
It's like I think I'd love to see the numbers on it. I don't know how provable it is. It's honestly I think underneath D&D it is one of the better performing tabletop games on the market right now. Like
yeah, I don't know.
it's definitely like I want to say it's like my gut is like second best, but I don't want to like put that number there.
Actually,
Like
you
I don't want
know,
to make a determining fact like number there, you know.
funny anecdote about that. So it was about the Palworld stuff, right? Josh Strife Hayes, I love his content. He made a tweet thread talking about like how people don't care. All that matters is that the game is fun, which I don't think is a super good take. But in that thread, he mentions no one, literally no one, talks about FIFA, like the game series,
True.
and they still make millions of dollars every year. Isn't that wild to think
Yeah,
about?
true. It's kind of just like
Like
a
the
given.
FIFA games always sell tons and tons and tons of copies. So, like, just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's not popular. Something Twitter isn't real life. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Social media in general is not a good representation of real life, and you know what we all think of how things work are probably like, this made me even like look back at what I've been judging like success on, and it's definitely made me reconsider some things. I still think that tabletop is still trending upward, obviously, but it's made me reconsider a few things.
It's definitely gaining a lot more notice. And yeah, I was just quickly checking and it was like, no, there's no hard numbers on anything, which is
No.
sad. I'm like, I want to see some numbers, but I'm pretty sure the issue is that a lot of the people who would be given those numbers are not publicly traded companies, so I cannot see the revenue. Because Wizards of the Coast, and I don't think Paizo is publicly traded, so I cannot see.
Yeah,
The
and you
only
know,
way I could determine.
there is a so I don't know, Captain Trips. Hopefully, we've been able to answer your problems.
Man, Fonzie Zombie. Devin, you got a really screaming problem lately. You keep
Yeah,
just having
he's just
caps
shouting into the chat.
on. Constant, like in our Discord all the time too.
True.
Snapping right lately. Are you okay? Palworld's changing you, man. Maybe the people on Twitter are right. Maybe we are getting violent.
Dead internet theory.
Oh God, fucking the. If you ever want to just feel awful, just type in "could not generate response" into Twitter and see what you find. It is a depressing time.
Interesting.
Because like there are people who they've set up bots and then they just have like Chat GPT or something generate basically they have a Twitter bot that scrapes any tweet that gets decent engagement, and then Chat GPT generates like a reply. But if there's anything that's like slightly if it's like political, inappropriate topic or anything, it'll say like I cannot generate a reply to this. So
That's funny.
all those bots, because they're blue checks and they're gaining ad revenue by getting engagement and views.
Yeah.
That's all they want to do. Because the one that blew up the prominence was was of all things a tweet that blew up of when a mod went viral of someone modding in all the Gen 1 Pokemon, and someone made a quote tweet saying some Nintendo lawyer got a hard on so hard he just rocketed out of his chair and hit his head on the ceiling. And then like the top reply was a blue check bot saying like, this I cannot generate a reply to inappropriate content.
That's funny.
And everyone was like, oh wait, is dead internet theory, is it real? Oh no. And then they were all just scraping through like the Twitter searches.
You know what, actually, that's something I do want to talk about for our last like 10 minutes. I hate the drama farming in general. Like, it's always been a thing. So here's me talking about a problem that's been a problem forever. But when it pertains to Twitter, it's super annoying because this whole Palworld thing is just exactly that. Like, whenever there's a controversy in gaming, I promise you, wait 2 weeks. If they're still talking about it, it might be real. If it's not, then it's just people drama farming. And second, like, I hate it in TTRPG space. because it is everywhere, and it's not like it's not effective. That's why people do it. Like I said, my why I get it Candela Obscura video was probably one of my most viewed videos last year, despite the remaster stuff. Like I totally get it, but man, there's a channel out there whose every other video literally says, and it just got worse.
Yeah, it's annoying
Every time. And I love the guys from Roll for Combat, but literally most of their streams are controversy streams or drama streams, and most of the time it's a whole lot of nothing that they're talking about. Like, I hate to say it because again, Steven Gleicher and Mark Seifter, great guys, absolutely love them, but they're definitely drama farming over at Roll for Combat. If it works, it works. Don't hate the players, hate the game, right? I'm just saying I hate the game. I hate that it's something that's so effective because honestly, drama never creates long-lasting interest in any particular subject. That's the thing. People are like, oh, there's no such thing as bad advertising. Yeah, but there is hollow advertising. There is advertising that is just going to blow something up temporarily and then go nowhere. That's why there's a lot of channels that suddenly get really big and then fall out of relevance and then just die because they have nothing of substance.
That literally happened recently with a content creator that blew up. Is people realized that, like, oh, this guy has literally nothing of worth to say, and he's willing to just, like, and in the moment he tries to make, like, deeper content, it blows up in his face because he has nothing interesting to say. That there was a really good example of that happened recently. God, it is a shame because also it's so boring talking about that. Like, it's more fun to just talk about fun, goofy things that you enjoy.
Well, I mean,
fun.
I think you can talk about serious subjects like this video, this chat here. Why does Pathfinder 2e keep getting dunked on? Is kind of like a drama piece, but we're more talking about like the overall subject and like the trend of it rather than like when I'm talking about drama farming, I'm talking about like, oh, a new thing came out and everyone's talking about it. Like, oh, so-and-so said this or so-and-so did that, or like every time anything comes out, like I'm pretty sure Roll for Combat did an AI art story, probably a couple for D&D. Let's double check. Let's validate this theory.
I'd be surprised if they didn't. And then, yeah, I don't know. More or less, like what I really mean is like topics like this, like for a stream and all that. It's important. It's important to chat about this and like make it known, have these nuanced discussions. When it comes to like my own personal content creation, the videos I create, I would seek death if I ever pivoted to like a drama channel. I would hate it. I'd feel awful because I'm like, this is a fucking snooze fest and I don't care, and I cannot pretend to give a shit about what someone on Twitter said. It is so hard for me to pretend to care.
Oh. Either they deleted the recent one because it turned out to not be a thing, or they didn't do one. I don't know. I don't keep up a lot with it with their channel, to be fair. What if I just type in AI to their live thread? Well, oh, they did talk about it in Hasbro's Year of Hell. Okay. So yes, but not directly, which I guess is fair. But I just I'm tired of drama farming. yeah, just let people let's just talk about the things that are fun. I'm really happy with my why you should play Pathfinder video, because I
Yeah,
think that video very much captured like the fun parts of the game. Like they talked about the Shuni, one of the most ridiculous ancestries they put into Pathfinder. Be a little pug dog person.
Shuni are fun.
Shuni are fun. And it's like a shorter video. I normally do much longer videos on the channel, so having a video that's sub 20 minutes is kind of nice every once in a while. Something I wish I
That is
could
fair.
do more.
Yeah, and yeah, it is fun because I have a fun one in the works. This Monday, I have a video coming out. It's I'm making a video on the Week of Nightmares in World of Darkness, and the
Ooh.
absolute clusterfuck that is that fucking thing. And holy shit, I even bought an old ass like 2004 storyteller's guide to like just I needed their official word on it and like get some more detail on it. And oh my god, it's so weird. That whole event is so wild and dumb of how varying it is and how many timeline splits there are and how there's a little event where it's like this is not canon. Like the whole fact that there's on one part of the timeline the entire underworld of Wraith Oblivion gets destroyed, but like maybe not because they continued the game later and said never mind. Because the Chronicles of Darkness, in the only example of it, the Chronicles of Darkness for Wraith is a direct continuation of World of Darkness, unlike Vampire the Requiem. I don't know, man.
Yeah. There's honestly, I'm kind of hyped that you're getting into the White Wolf like game series and World of Darkness stuff, because I'm sure there's a lot of wild stuff in general like involved with all of it. So
It's fun. It is quite literally the exact same appeal as 40K. Like it is the like anybody who would say that they're a 40K fan, I feel like would be a fan of World of Darkness because it is like it is either a genuinely like depressing, grimdark, like cool stories with like really like depressing melodrama. Like there's just a lot of fun like creepy stuff there. Um there's like one that I really like, this little story. It was like I think one of the game designers. He talked about like a little method of carrying the tone of Vampire the Masquerade, where he told the story of like working at a computer shop, and there's this girl who would come in, like this very gothic girl who would come in at like midnight and stay there till like 5 a.m. But she would like boot up World of Warcraft or something, and then like walk over to a hill in game, and then just stand on top of it and pull out a book and read, not even play WoW. And she did this for like months, and eventually he like asked her what she was doing, and she looks up and all she said was like, I like how the sunset or the sunrise looks in game. And it's like that level of like that's how sad vampires are. That's the tone that they're trying to hit in like Vampire, and I love that. And then on the other hand, it's a goofy clown world with like a weird invasion of like Zeppelin cyborgs and zeppelins in 1946 that everyone forgot. And then oh, don't forget the lizard people in the Hollow Earth, or oh yeah, like the perfect werewolf messiah that's hiding in a research facility in Antarctica. Don't forget about that part. It's like it transitions. It's goofy as 40K can get sometimes, or as depressing as 40K can get. So it's the exact same appeal.
it does. It's super fun. Honestly, like I hope we get the time that to look into some other games and their systems and world lore and stuff like that, because I think that there's probably so many very fun hidden treasures out there that people just don't talk about. Or if people did talk about it, they talked about it like 10 years ago, and it's like, who watches 10-year-old videos, right? So
yeah. And I'll say the canon I cover is from World of Darkness. I am not very well versed with Chronicles, mainly because like I got into it with Vampire Bloodlines. Like that is where I got into it. I know roughly of like Vampire Requiem, and it ain't for me. I prefer World of Darkness. It's more my vibe. Though from what I've heard, apparently Vampire Requiem is a pretty cool game.
Yeah. Hopefully at one point the channel can get to a size where we can have like teams of people looking into other things. Get someone to you would love.
I would love for us to try out like Werewolf the Apocalypse 5e.
Yeah.
Or like Mage the Ascension 20th. That'd be really fun. Because I know because I've read through the 5e Werewolf book, my man. It's quality.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's just Werewolf is a weird it's a weird setting.
I'm just now starting to get Vampire down.
That's good.
It's taken a bit because the book does not make it easy.
I want them to revise it, so they need to revise that fucking book. Oh my god.
It's so terrible. Nearly 10 sessions in, finally I'm starting to get... When I do my how to play Vampire, like, I'm very much going to be like, okay, guys, please watch this before you play the game. It will save you so much time. Because...
Yeah.
It's not actually a complicated game.
No, they make it more complicated than it is.
Yeah. The problem mostly lies, one, in the fact that the game is inherently just kind of do whatever feels right kind of game. There's not really supposed to be hard rules, but you're playing a game, and you want at least some guidance. So you have to look through the book to get that guidance, and that's where the struggle is.
Genuinely, the problem with how they write out, especially 5th edition. 5th edition's the biggest contender with this, because the older editions aren't as bad with it. The problem is that Vampire the Masquerade is a rules light system pretending to have crunch. When it doesn't, it's not that deep of a game, but they're just hiding it between just the worst layout you've ever seen, pretending that like there's all this like crazy rules depth and like crazy things you have to interact with. When you delve into anything, all these paragraphs are really saying, do what you think is right, thumbs up. Like, it's a lot of the rulings are whatever you think you want to do, storyteller.
Yeah. It's way harder than original.
It's so worse.
Pathfinder 2e core.
Like, I cannot express to you how bad it is. So, okay, like, imagine going to just wanting to, like, okay, I want to do combat in my game. I want to learn how to fight a guy. There are 3 separate chapters on fighting a guy. And then 3 separate chapters to learn how to do damage. And then 2 separate sections to learn how much damage your weapon does.
Yeah. Let me
the index doesn't tell you.
Let me phrase it in a couple anecdotes I have. Healing that you find in the index at the back of the book, which isn't actually at the very back of the book, you actually have to go like 30 pages in to get to the actual index, is not where you find out where your character gets their health back. When you go to the healing section, it tells you to go to the mending section instead, which when you don't know the game and you're looking for how to heal, the first thing you're going to look at is healing. That's where people should find the information. Second antidote, and probably the most damning one, they give you your hunting preference, your prey preference, but the actual section that tells you how it works is like 3 or 4 chapters after that in a different section called hunting.
Near the back of the book.
Near the back of the book.
Something that's... The character creation part where you pick your predator type is near the front of the book.
Something that's so fundamental to how the game works. Because hunting is a big thing. Your characters need to feed. And all that in a very different section than where in the character guide it's telling you, like, oh, pick a prey style or a hunting style or whatever. It's terrible. So, that being the case, my video is going to be a godsend. But that's going to be it for today's chat. We've gone a little bit over. So, wow, we had like nearly 30 people here. A lot of people were, I think, were in for the drama, which I guess fair. As much as I hate it, it is probably just the thing. But hopefully, hopefully today's chat was informative for a lot of people. Hopefully you guys liked it. And like the main crux of everything, these content creators aren't bad people. They're not trying to hurt Pathfinder. It's difficult as a content creator to understand the weight your words say when you have thousands of people listening to what you say every day. Like, despite my channel, right, almost 4.5k subs, so small, right? So small. This channel gets over 1,000 views a day at just this size. So 1,000 people are hearing the things I say every single day. That's a lot. That's a lot more than your common person has. And this channel is so small in the grand scheme of things. So, it's something that is just unnatural. People, especially because the whole premise is you're talking to a microphone by yourself in a room. You don't understand that, like, that translates to a lot more people than it feels like. And, like, not to many magnitudes more than you could probably handle, So, just know that when content creators are saying something and they say they don't like your game, that sucks. And it's justified to be angry about it. But also, they have the right to say whatever they want because it's their content. So, there's not really a good answer. You can be mad at them if you want. It probably won't change anything. Probably will just make them mad. But you never know. People could change. People could see your comments and say, I guess it's just keep doing what you're doing, and just know that it's not personal at the very least. So, anything from you, sir, before we head out?
Yeah, well, if you like lore content, like I mentioned earlier, I do 40k and Vampire the Masquerade stuff with little extra bits every once in a while and other tabletop lore. I put out a video today on a part 3 of a Warhammer 40k iceberg that I've created myself, getting to the deeper dive, like the actual deeper cuts of the setting. So actually the part where the subjects are getting interesting, so check that out. Then on Monday I'm releasing the Week of Nightmares video where I go insane trying to give context for how stupidly overcomplicated this event is, because it's very important and there's a lot of people moving around in this event. It's a great time. So yeah, that's my channel. Go check it out. Go sub. It's linked in Cam's YouTube, or just look up Glue Boy. You'll find me. Yeah, I'm back to making content after recovering from some nasty headache shit, but I'm on the mend and gonna jump right back into this content stuff. And hopefully Yakuza won't keep me down. No promises.
Keep you away. Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at Kiryu, and it's hard.
As for myself, we're getting back into the swing of things. I was gonna make a video today, honestly, do another Lancer license, but I'm so bad with social anxiety. I made that tweet on Bob's Twitter thread, and I just couldn't do anything after that. I was just like, I need to watch some anime or something. I'm way too stressed out for no reason. I don't know why I keep putting myself in this situation. I'm not cut out for that kind of stuff. But the beginning of this month was really, really rough for me personally, but everything is now different, and videos will be coming out as normal. Tomorrow will be another Pathfinder 2e build. I'm going to be doing a fighter who specializes in monk weapons, which is going to be very, very fun. Very interesting play style, I think I've discovered there. And in addition, next week I'm going to do a how to GM Pathfinder 2e video, which I know a lot of people have been asking for. And then I'll be moving on to why you should play Lancer and how to play Lancer stuff. So be on the lookout. This year is going to be a really big year. I'm going to be looking into as many games as I can. And starting March, I will have no more free time because they're going to be releasing a book like every month or every other month after that point. And I'm going to be talking about them more than anyone else. So if you want more Pathfinder content or just more TTRPG content in general, like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. Subscribe to Glue Boy. You can find him on the channel under the friends section. And yeah, that's going to be it from us. I'll go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.